Evet, herkese merhaba. Canlı yayındayız Webrazi'de, Webrazi üzerinde ve aynı zamanda Facebook'ta canlı yayındayız. Fintech Talks'un bu bölümünde Fintech'te değişime öncülük edenler başlığıyla iki konuğum olacak. Sizler yerlerinizi alırken almışsınızdır belki de. İki yabancı konuğum olacak. Haliyle söyleşimiz İngilizce olacak. Ama ilerleyen günlerde bunu altyazılı olarak paylaşacağız. Çok değerli iki konuşmacı olacak burada. Şu anda benim söylediklerimi onlar duyuyorlar ve anlamıyorlar. Yani o yüzden ve onların bizi izlediğini biliyorum şu anda. Ama benim ne söylediğim konusunda hiç fikirleri yok. Sadece kendi isimlerini duyarlarsa bir ilginç an olacak. Dediğim gibi iki yabancı konuk olunca ben de İngilizce soruları soruyor olacağım. Umarım keyif alırsınız. Çok değerli iki konuşmacı olacak. Biliyorsunuz Fintech Talks serisini Facebook'la birlikte gerçekleştiriyoruz. Ve sanıyorum bu 4. bölüm oluyor diye hatırlıyorum. Yanlış bir şey söylemiyorsam eğer. Nasıl geçti onu da anlamıyorum bu arada. Çok acayip hızlı geçiyor. Bugün de aşağı yukarı 40-45 dakika kadar burada sizlerle olacağız. Evet, çok uzatmayayım. Herkes yerlerini aldıysa. Dediğim gibi iki konuğum var. İlkini burada hemen bir sahneye çağırmış olayım. Facebook'un EMEA'dan sorumlu, yani Avrupa, Orta Doğu ve Asya'dan sorumlu finansal servislerin dikey pazarlama yöneticisi Molly Pierce'ı öncelikle buraya davet ediyorum. Facebook Financial Services Vertical Marketing Lead olarak geçiyor ünvanı. Hello Molly, thanks for joining us. Can you unmute your mic? Yes, okay. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Yeah, fine. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. I just a few words in Turkish, as you realized, and I was saying that probably you didn't even understand the words from what I was saying. But starting from now, I'll be speaking English, so the whole conversation will be in English. Maybe just a few times I may start speaking Turkish, just to let know our viewers. So if I need to say a few details, I may start speaking Turkish, but mostly all the conversation will be in English. So let's invite our next speaker, Kevin Dabian. I think I pronounced his last name right. Dabian,
you did. Hi.
Yeah, right. Hi. So I'm gonna say a few words in Turkish, just a sec. Herkese tekrardan merhaba. Şu bilgiyi paylaşayım. Biraz önce Molly'nin bilgisini verdim size ama Kevin'inkini Türkçe söylemiş olayım. Kevin de Plum isimli bir şirketin Paid Marketing Lead, yani ücretli pazarlama yöneticisi diye çevirebilirim diye düşünüyorum. Ve sohbetimize dediğim gibi İngilizce olarak devam ediyorum. Şu anda yanında bir Facebook yetkilisi, bir Plum şirket yetkilisi var. Öncelikle kendisine şu Plum'un ne olduğunu soralım. Sohbet öyle başlasın. Okay, so I just told our audience a little bit about you, and now I'm just kicking off the conversation. So I'm going to start with Kevin. Obviously, our audience know Facebook, but they maybe they don't know about Plum. So can you tell us a bit about what's Plum and briefly your story? It would be great to make everyone know about it.
Okay, so Plum launched 3.5 years ago on Facebook Messenger originally as a chatbot, and the idea was that it's a robot that you connect to your bank account, and it helps you like grow your money in 3 main ways. The first way is to set money aside for you automatically using an algorithm that will have an understanding of your income and your outgoings and incomings, and then put money aside every few days on something, whatever you can afford. And then over time, you put more money aside if you thought you could on your own, and you'd be like surprised into the amount of money you've saved. Then the other pillar is we look after people's bills. So because we have read-only access to your bank account in a way, we can also notify you when you're getting ripped off on like certain suppliers like energy supplier, broadband, or loans and stuff like that. So we can let you know that you can save a few £100 if you swap to a better and cheaper provider. And then the last pillar is once you save that money, you can grow that money by investing it in a few funds. So we connect, say like normal people with like funds from like Vanguard, Legal and General, that would not be accessible otherwise. Like you can access it from just £1. You can invest that money automatically, and then you can grow your savings that way. So originally we launched on Messenger. We were like a popular chatbot, and that's why we were very strong on the Facebook ecosystem, and we use Facebook ads a lot to grow. And lately we like extended to like apps as well on like iOS and Android. And so now we have about 1 million users in the UK, and we plan to extend in a few markets in Europe at the end of the quarter.
Sounds great. Thank you. Thank you. So, Molly, what are the capabilities Facebook provide to such disruptor fintech apps?
Yeah, great. Thank you. I think, I mean, Kevin's touched on a couple there from a messenger standpoint, but, you know, ultimately we deliver capabilities that connect to customers with a number of stages along the customer journey. So it could be the initiation, it could be customer service. We were at multiple points, but importantly, we're there within context and in a contextual place. So it's really helpful for brands to actually then enable a contextual connection and speak to those consumers, you know, with a human voice, answering a need that that they've got. So, you know, Kevin mentioned Messenger there. Messenger's a really good one. We've seen, as a result of COVID-19, as an example, Messenger volumes go up as there's been a struggle for call centers, for banks and for fintechs. So Messenger as not only a customer service provider, but also looking at it from a conversational commerce perspective is a really interesting space. I think achieving an end-to-end solution and a truly digital experience is something that fintechs are, you know, amazing at, and it's something that the banks are sort of trying to do. But it's interesting to look at, you know, are they truly digital, or have they just digitized an existing service? And I think where Facebook can play is at a number of those stages along that journey to help create, be part of a truly digital experience. So I think, you know, yeah, it's about that connecting to the customer in the right moment through various, it could be an initial ad, which actually that ad could be the initial inception point, or it could be through Messenger to continue that conversation and from a more conversational commerce perspective.
I see. So, Kevin, so you told us about Plum and Plum's business model. And what's the role of Facebook in Plum's business model?
Well, Facebook is one of the main like acquisition channel because Plum is such unique product in essence that, you know, it's like an algorithm that helps you manage your finance in some ways. That is not necessarily something that people would look for or search for, but the Facebook and Instagram is a good place to kind of get people's attention into innovative solution that they may not have heard of before. So Facebook and Instagram give us a lot of opportunity to like stand out in or offer what we're offering and get high volume of customers coming from the channels basically.
Yeah. By the way, you told us about Plum, but just a quick question. If it's, if you are ready to answer this, I'm not sure, but in how many countries you're operating, and what's your main region?
So at the moment, we're only available in the UK.
Yeah.
And we deliver on like the pound. But then we're going to extend to other European markets like France and Spain at the end of the quarter. And we're going to start delivering in like the euro currency as well. So we're going to extend to European markets as well. And then, you know, then ideally it will never stop. Like go region to region after that.
Yeah. Any plans about expanding into our region, like Turkey and maybe to the Middle East? Any plans about that?
Yeah. Well, because I'd say like Facebook is very strong in Turkey, right? And there's a large audience, easily reachable via Facebook in a way. And because we've been successful to acquire customers so far via this channel, actually knowing that certain markets being strong on Facebook is a big sell for us to go to other market as well.
Yeah.
So
actually, that's the reason I asked this question, actually, because like Facebook is really strong in Turkey, and also all the apps Facebook provide are very well used in Turkey by most of the audience, not just the young, but like from all age groups. You can find people using Facebook products. So that's why I wondered which countries you're operating, and also any plans about expanding into Turkey. Because if you are really using Facebook mostly for acquisition, customer acquisition, obviously it won't be hard for you to attract some users in Turkey if you are targeting them. Yeah, but by the way, you can go on. Yeah.
Yeah, the main challenge for us is more there's infrastructure available in the markets. So we have to adapt because we need to plug our product to like bank accounts available in the market.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
We have to make sure that the technology is or like the partners we're using are providing a good service so we can apply our service to other customer. So at the moment, the UK is, I think the UK is good in that space, but like other European markets, we have to see as well how that's gonna come out, because it's open banking is fairly new. It's fairly recent, and not all the banks are necessarily on the same stage, and we're quite dependent on that aspect. So we have to check a few factors basically. But Turkey is very appealing, very appealing.
Yeah. Cool. So, Molly, how Facebook can contribute to the branding of a disruptor banking from scratch? This is my first question, but also I want to ask, what should be their KPIs? So if you can answer both these questions at one go, that would be so helpful.
Yeah, sure. I think, firstly, it's worth saying that it's a long-term investment. Kevin's referenced a couple of times there about acquiring customers and, where is the market opportunity. But I think, something that the fintechs don't do as their sort of first or their primary goal is think about that longer term brand building, because actually it's the customer acquisition that's most important for the business. So I think, it's a longer term investment, that's for sure. Brand lift studies are a way that we look at it from a Facebook perspective. But I would focus on, what does the journey look like and what is the need? So, profitability is kind of the longer term gain. And then of course there's a need to gain customers, but also thinking about the lifetime value of a client and what role customer experience has to play in that. So understanding the life stages of, customers is crucial at this, and, having an adaptability of both the brand and the service that you're delivering, is a really key way to start thinking about how you're then going to build that brand. So in terms of building brand on Facebook, we have 3 key rules. And we would think about reach, and reaching a minimum of 50% of your target audience. Frequency, so minimum of 2 per week, or that's 8 per month. And then don't be too granular, like really think about a broad audience to capture that opportunity. And I mentioned brand lift studies. We've actually done 2 recently, one in Germany and one in the UK, that were focused for fintech clients looking to build their brand. And something that was really interesting to that last point on not going too granular, if you deliver really powerful creative that meets the need of the audience that you're targeting, and you go a bit broader, you're going to learn new things, and ultimately get more new customers from unexpected audiences. And an example of this recently, and again, it's kind of related to the lockdown situation, but we recently ran a brand lift study around financial literacy with a UK name, and we saw huge brand lift and uptake and interest from the over 55s category, which actually the insight there is that we're looking at, come back to that digital experience and digital literacy of online banking that people have had to pivot towards. And actually there's then a real need and hunger for that audience to start engaging with whatever, the brand that's actually giving out that message. And something similar in the German market, across age ranges, if you take the demographic out, but actually delivering a message about financial well-being and financial health and support. When we then ran a brand lift study, most of the audience, we saw significant uplift on association of that brand and the consumer's needs. So I guess I would say it's a longer term gain. You have to think specifically about the need of the customer rather than the kind of product or the acquisition that you're trying to get in the first instance. And from a KPI perspective, it's very much about brand, a brand lift study, which we kind of run on the platform.
I see. Thank you. And also, I'm gonna ask a similar question to Kevin as well. How do you scale performance on Facebook? This is the first question. I'm going to ask you a few questions together, so maybe you can combine them. How do you scale performance on Facebook? And second thing is, which KPIs are your top priorities? And also, if you can share like top three tips that would be so helpful for the audience.
Okay. I'd say like, how do you scale on Facebook? I would say like usually different cohorts of people have different needs, especially when it comes to money or different interests. And because a product can cover a broad aspect of this interest, from from investing money, from trying to help you save, we can impact different cohorts of people. And so we try to adapt the creative that we launch to as many cohorts possible in order to appeal a wider audience in total. And also, I think Facebook has a lot of scale, and you should not be afraid to target widely as well. I think the learning process on Facebook is very strong, and very strong versus other platforms available. So don't be afraid to let Facebook do this little thing as well. And you're going to learn, as Maurice said, you're going to learn in the process as well and find out new opportunities. Then our main KPI, we still very focused on the CPA basis. So so we want to make sure we get people cost effectively, and we do check the actual real impact of the Facebook ads as well. That Facebook offer a few tools to do that. And but the idea is that we really want to tie up the CPA and different costs to tie it up with the lifetime value of the customer down the funnel in the future as well. So it will be a combination of CPA and value down the funnel. And then the top 3 tips, I'd say, don't underestimate creative. It doesn't have to be complicated, expensive. But creative is a very important factor of success. Try to try different. There's different destination, and if you can drive people in different places, and they have multiple ways that they convert ultimately. So you can drive them to blogs or the places that is not necessarily obvious to you, but based on the different code, they might need more or less context. So don't be afraid to try different destination as well, and don't be afraid to go too broad either. Facebook is very clever.
Molly, do you want to add some pro tips to what Kevin said? Do you want to add more tips here? You already told us a few KPIs, but maybe you want to add some tips to his answer.
I think Kevin hit it spot on there from a performance point of view. I think something that I would just add to when you're thinking about performance and brand or brand is the power of creative, and that actually acknowledging the fact that creative for a brand message is very different to creative for a performance message, and therefore how you're delivering that message. So thinking about it like what you want to deliver in terms of contextual, how you want to deliver that in terms of creative and format, and then who you want to deliver it to, you know, back to Kevin's point, and I touched on it about, you know, going a bit broader and actually learning from that, because you think, you know, I spent a long time working at HSBC, and a lot of it was like getting to know customers and customer profiling. And there's a lot of, you know, you think you know your customer, but you know, you don't always. You'll always learn something new. So you know, have an open mind to learning that. But yeah, I can't emphasize enough the power of good creative, the key message.
I'm gonna stay with you now because I have a question, but actually probably it's gonna be a broad answer. So we are talking about fintechs in this series, and like Plum, we also had a couple of talks with other fintechs as well, or the banks even. So can you a little bit tell us about the role that fintechs play in financial literacy? Can you tell us a little bit about that? What do you see? What do you think?
Yeah, of course. I think, you know, we've touched on it, and the Turkish market is great for this in terms of innovation. But fintechs are really nimble, they're agile, and they're customer first. They're often built on the flaws or the bits of the traditional players that they didn't quite get right, which makes them, you know, even more attractive to a younger audience. And I think that customer first point, it also means that the tone of voice is more human, which breaks down the complexities of financial products. So this is and absolutely should be and continue to be empowering. Then when you think about things like financial literacy is a key, you know, it's such a big term, and it encompasses so much, but ultimately it should be within the DNA of all organizations. And I think, you know, if you look at the likes of Plum, and there's a number of other, you know, fintechs around the EMEA region that actually look at enabling people to do more with their money, they almost have a financial literacy message at their core. But it's, you know, it's enabling fintechs to go after the customers that might not necessarily seem commercially viable day one, but you know, giving them those tools and equipping people with those tools makes them more financially savvy as their life stages progress and as they become more affluent and more, you know, they have more money to move around. I mentioned before we've recently done a brand lift study with a savings focused fintech in the UK, and we saw, you know, looking at different demographics, we saw one of the largest brand lifts in terms of association with that brand and the individual audience's needs of financial literacy themselves. We saw the biggest increase with 18 to 24-year-olds, which, you know, there's a huge hunger for it. People want to learn about, you know, they're getting their first job, they're moving out of home, they need help budgeting, especially those from like a lower socioeconomic background. And as I say, you know, not necessarily typically commercially valuable in that instant, but they will be when you start looking about long-time value. So I think there's a role of fintechs to play in driving that agenda forward with actually, you know, doing more than just trying to get commercial gain in the first instance. It's a longer-term gain. And I mean, personally, I think that fintechs have a role to play in teaching financial education early. And, you know, we're working with a body in the UK called Innovate Finance on a program that's around fintech for schools. So it's about, you know, it's about behavior change, and it's about getting financial education and literacy on the school agenda so that people are becoming savvier from an earlier age. Because yes, it's about your customers and your lifetime customers, but it's also about your workforce and, you know, the future tech brains that are going to come into your organization, and they're going to help shape your business and make it profitable in the long term. So I think, you know, fintech are really driving this agenda. If you look at who's doing it well around the globe, it's always a fintech name that's, you know, that's looking at literacy rather than the traditional banks.
Yeah, thank you. By the way, my questions are over. I asked all my questions. Do you want to add something? Do you want to say something? Any more comments or something else you want to add to this conversation? Kevin, first of all, maybe you want to add something?
Yeah, I will agree on this, on the comment Molly just said now. And I think there's a responsibility now with fintech when it comes to educate people better with money and nurturing your audiences as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then the one thing I have to say, I've pushed stuff on Facebook in Turkey, and I know how powerful Facebook is in Turkey, so I'm really looking forward to be there, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
As a
hopefully, yeah, looking forward. So Molly, by the way, I have one more question, but I'm not sure. I mean, you can answer it right away, but because like my question is this actually. I mean, you are working with fintechs mostly because of your role at Facebook in Europe, Middle East, and Asia. Is that right?
Europe, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and it's
Africa. Sorry, not Asia. Africa. Sorry.
Yeah, traditional banks and fintechs. So it's both. It's across the whole industry.
So,
yeah.
Cool. So you're working Europe, Middle East, and Africa, working with banks and fintechs. So. I mean, I believe you have so much expertise with all these companies, what they are doing, their innovation, or maybe even the way they acquire customers. Because like the only markets you're not really doing something is United States and I guess Asia. All the rest of the world, you are dealing with these fintechs and banks. I mean, do you see any, I don't know, differences? Maybe you can say in this region, I see this, they are doing this better. Or here, young people are, I don't know, more interested in fintechs, whatever. Is there any like, anything you can share with us, more like your findings from these markets and, I don't know, something in your work?
I think there's a few things. You know, there's a lot of we do a lot of studies with our research part of Facebook that look at different global markets. But I would that we'll look at things like the changes in retail banking, or financial literacy is our most recent one, which I can share after this session. But I always come back to the I spent 6 years working in a big global bank, and I always come back to the fintechs are pushing the boundaries of some of the traditional players, and those boundaries are being widened on a daily basis because of the understanding of and the role of technology, and the understanding of the role that technology helps organizations in connecting to their customers. I think though that, you know, it's not to say that the traditional players aren't keeping up, because a number of them are, but my personal view is that actually that comes down to the individuals and the teams that work in those organizations. A lot of this comes down to people and structure. You know, I've worked with a number of the big traditional banks in Turkey, with the Turkey team, and they're some of the best innovation that we've seen. You know, I worked with Akbank back when I first started at Facebook, and you know, that's such an innovative team because the people that sit behind it are driving the innovation. So I think a lot of the time it comes to the people, and also how connected those teams are individually around the purpose of the customer. So, you know, when I worked at HSBC, there was a number of separate teams, and they were just beginning to merge around what that customer needs. Because if you've got a digital team, an infrastructure team, and a marketing team, and a proposition team, and everybody's focused around the customer, what you deliver is have far greater chance of meeting their needs. The fintechs, that's how they were born and bred. I mean, I don't want to speak for Kevin here because, you know, he knows more than I do, but that's their sole kind of raison d'etre. They are focused around delivering excellent service and meeting a customer need. So in summary, I would just say, you know, I love to work with both the traditionals and the fintechs. I think the fintechs really push the boundaries, but I think the agility that comes with a fintech is really getting, you know, big organizations to think differently. How they're even setting up their teams, let alone how they are, how and what they're delivering to their customer base.
Thank you. It was really good. It was like I wasn't ready for this question, but I just thought about that. And thanks for answering. So again, thanks for joining us today. It was great knowing you, first of all, meeting you online. Hopefully we will meet in person when this COVID-19 thing is over. Hopefully we can meet in person at some of our conferences or somewhere else. Again, thank you for joining us today and hope to see you soon again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Evet. Valla yarım saatte toparladık. Umarım keyif almışsınızdır. Aslında yani İngilizce bir sohbetti. İzleyenler umarım keyif almışlardır. Çok fazla şey söylediler. Webrazi ekibi bunları güzel böyle haberler haline getirecektir. Çünkü birkaç tane arada hem Molly'nin hem Kevin'in söylediği çok değerli ipuçları vardı, tipler vardı. O yüzden bunları alt alta getirmek güzel olacaktır. Ayrı ayrı haberler şeklinde bunları sizlere paylaşacaktır ekibimiz. Onun dışında da bu video alt yazı olarak tekrardan yayınlanacak. Eğer yani işte izlemeyenler varsa ve şu anda yani canlıyı izlemeyenler varsa kayıttan onu daha sonrasında alt yazı olarak izleyebilirler. Umarım keyif almışsınızdır. İki değerli isim işte Londra merkezli Plum ve Facebook'tan katıldılar bize. Teşekkür ederiz izlediğiniz için. Bir sonraki bölümde görüşmek üzere diyorum. Ek olarak şunu söylüyorum. Webrazi.com/fintechtalks'tan da bundan sonraki yayının tarihini, konusunu vesaire takip edebilirsiniz. Görüşmek üzere. Hoşça kalın.